What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to react to an ESPN debate focused on a big NFL coaching decision involving the Buffalo Bills. This is one of those topics that really got people talking across the league, and we're going to watch it together and react in real time. Before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL reactions and content like this.
NFL Live, so much to get to today, very busy day. We will hear from John Harbaugh. Look at this, allow me to reintroduce myself. Okay, being hired as the Giants' new head coach. You don't want to miss what he had to say about working with his new quarterback, that guy, Jackson Dart. And C.J. Stroud's playoff struggles continue. Does Houston have a quarterback problem? Dan will show you exactly what went wrong. Really interesting stuff here. Plus, the Rams are on their way to the NFC Championship, but is it all smooth sailing in L.A.? We'll take a closer look at what could possibly slow them down against the Seahawks, familiar opponent. You know how that goes. Dan's here, Mina's here. We got a lot to get to, you guys. Let's kick it off with New York, okay, where John Harbaugh was introduced today as the new Giants head coach. He spoke about his vision for the team, what he hopes to bring to the Big Apple, and how he plans to lead the Giants moving forward. Take a listen.
We begin a new chapter in New York. Our focus is simple. It starts with building a team that is physical and tough, that's capable of overwhelming their opponent from beginning to end, and especially at the end, that understands how to finish, that is smart and disciplined, that plays the game the way it should be played, and that everybody watching it, including those playing it, will be proud of. I'm excited about Jackson Dart, you know, and it starts with the quarterback for sure. I mean, the quarterback has got to, you build your team around your quarterback. I mean, you build your team around your players and what they do well. And I like the way he plays. I mean, I like his talent, skill set, all the things he's accomplished. But more than that, I like who he is and what he's about. To me, he's about football. I mean, this young guy loves football. He wants to talk football all the time. And, you know, and that's kind of what I like doing too. So I think we're going to have a lot of great conversations. I can't wait to get started with him.
I love that. Puts a smile on my face. John Harbaugh, the fourth former Super Bowl winning coach over the last 25 seasons to take over a team coming off a season of 4 or fewer wins. It happened last year when the Raiders hired Pete Carroll. It was one and done after going 3-14, though. Doug Peterson took the Jaguars to the playoffs in his first season in the prior instance. Mina, the big question for him in this organization, though, is who comes in as OC? He's talking about his relationship with Jackson Dart, but how important is that hire going to be for Dart's development when it comes to his future?
Obviously, this is a huge hire, a huge decision for John Harbaugh, especially given where Jackson Dart is in that development. Year 2 is so important for these young quarterbacks. When I first heard Todd Monken being thrown around as a possible offensive coordinator, and I know he's done some head coach interviews, I absolutely loved that idea. I think Monken did a fantastic job in Baltimore, not only, of course, dealing with another mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson and designing the run game to highlight those skills, and the run game should and will be the focus in New York. But also, I think, you know, Monken showed a lot of creativity, called a very modern offense, an offense that constantly iterated, was very different from what he did early in his career. I loved how he used motion in the run game in particular, some very creative and interesting personnel, obviously, in Baltimore. So I would really like that hire if New York did it. I do think, and I know, Dan, we've talked about this, Dart is very mobile. His mobility is different from Lamar's. Oh, yeah. They're going to have to call a different sort of QB run game, and also an emphasis has to be on getting Dart to protect himself because he's not Lamar Jackson in the open field. But on the whole, I would love that idea, and I hope it happens if I'm a Giants fan. Yeah, obviously the hire of coordinator is going to be a big deal, and then I think that's kind of the next step for this organization and/or football team is some of the question marks. One, with your own roster, are you going to re-sign your right tackle?
The offensive coordinator hire is absolutely the real story here. Harbaugh can set the tone, but Dart's future lives and dies with who designs this offense. Mina's point about Todd Monken makes a lot of sense. Not just because of Lamar Jackson, but because Monken adapts. Dart isn't Lamar, and trying to force that comparison would be a mistake. If the Giants get this wrong, year 2 could stall fast. If they get it right, this team could jump from irrelevant to competitive quicker than people expect.
Illuminor, and there was some pretty good play out of him this year. And then second,
Who's going to be the pass catcher opposite Malik Neighbors? I'm not sitting here telling everybody it has to be this unbelievable wide receiver, but it's got to be a pass catcher, whether it's a tight end as well. Theo Johnson did some good things. Yeah. I think that the interior of their offensive line has to develop and grow and have some added pieces. So, and then add to the secondary from a full team perspective. And so I'm one of those people that I think when you bring up in a coach like this that understands how to win and really how not to give away games, you can get pretty competitive pretty quickly. I don't think that this is put this in them as the #1 seed in the playoffs next year. But I do think if they figure out some of the pieces on their offensive line and get a competent wide receiver or really an upper echelon wide receiver opposite Malik, I think this is a team that can contend for the playoffs.
It'll also help to get Cam Scatterbo back, which he's in line to potentially be back by training camp. Should be huge for that offense. All right, so this coaching carousel continues to spin, but some of these vacancies are being filled. Some news breaking late last night as the Tennessee Titans finalizing a deal to hire 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. Saleh spent Monday with the organization where both sides impressed each other enough to move forward. So Saleh, with his defensive background, takes over a Titans team that was a bottom 3 offense in the NFL last season in several categories: scoring, passing, rushing, analytics. They ranked 30th in all of them. And he will have 2025 #1 overall pick Cam Ward and the 2026 4th overall pick to work with. I think that #4 overall pick pretty huge, too, to see where they go when it comes to supporting Cam Ward. But, Dan, a lot of people expected the Titans to go offensive here. This vacancy was the first one that really came down, and we were thinking, would it be Stefanski? He ends up going to the Falcons. Do you like this hire with Saleh coming in?
I like the hire, but I want to see who the offense coordinator is. I think Robert Saleh is a good coach. I do think that he was dealt a difficult hand in New York, specifically on the offensive side. But it's all going to come down. It's not that different than the Giants situation. Who he hires as his head coach. Is it going to be Mike McDaniel if he doesn't get a head coaching job? Is it going to be Mike LaFleur that he can bring that he had with him in New York? Is it going to be Matt Nagy, who was part of the Chiefs and maybe in some of the head coaching cycles and might be departing from Kansas City? I think the most important thing for me, MK, is you have a special talent in Cam Ward. I truly believe that. His ability to make some throws, I think he had as many wild throws as most high-end quarterbacks in the NFL this year. The biggest thing is you cannot hire somebody that coaches that magic out of him. It's a challenge because you do have to coach some of the sloppy out of it, some of that danger out of it, that carelessness out of him, no doubt. Yeah. But you don't want to coach the special out of him. That's why this hire is huge, because I think there's some rare talent in him that can vault Tennessee, at least offensively, up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if Mike McDaniel doesn't get a head coaching job this cycle, I'm throwing the biggest bag possible at him just for a year, right? Then he can go back to trying to be a head coach again. But this year, I will repeat exactly what I said for Jackson Dart. It is so important for Cam Ward's development. It's not just about the coordinator. They desperately need wide receiver talent as well.
Yes.
That was an issue that just showed up time and time again. As far as Saleh, though, just to back up for a second, I do think the further we get from his Jets tenure, the more we see what he did with what he was given, right? From the point he was hired in 2021 until he was fired in week 5 of the 2024 season, that defense was first in yards per play, third in success rate. And since then, well, we've seen the results even before they traded away some of their players. So I do like the idea of him coming in and fixing the defense, because this is a problem on both sides of the ball. His leadership abilities are often raved about by folks around the league. But if he doesn't nail the offensive coordinator hire, nothing will matter. And to me, that's the biggest hire, maybe league-wide right now.
Yeah, and also just what he did with San Francisco defensively this year when they got decimated by injuries. I wonder, MK, does the experience in New York that he had with Zach Wilson impact him in a positive when it comes to just the handling of that position and that offensive side of the ball? Does he want somebody who's got a little bit more experience developing a younger quarterback? It's not only the play caller. You got to have somebody that's in that building on a consistent basis that really knows what it's like to develop a young quarterback. What are the things we have to break? What are the things that we want to enhance? I think that's just as important as the play caller as well.
I'm in total agreement there. I think, just to echo what you're saying about the quarterback development too, like I think they've got to really find a way to get the run game going. Again, Mike McDaniel would be great in that regard. I thought the Titans offensive line, there was issues, but you also saw some young players take a step forward. So for me, the main priority this offseason is just adding pass catching talent.
Yeah, Mina, you answered exactly what I was going to ask you.
Seattle's offense right now feels very old school modern, if that makes sense. Under center, fullback usage, physical blocking from receivers. This is real playoff football. Sam Darnold isn't being asked to be a superhero. He's being asked to read defenses, communicate, and punish mistakes. That's why this works. When defenses respect the run, everything opens up. This version of Seattle is dangerous because it's sustainable, not flashy.
So we're just always on the same page. The Titans do have $77 million in cap space. That's the third most in the NFL. So they do have the bandwidth to add. It eliminated the 49ers 41-6. While the defense set the tone, the offense finished the job, piling on points to help advance Seattle to the NFC Championship. And over their last 4 games, including the postseason, the Seahawks have run for 689 yards with 8 rushing touchdowns. It's the first time Seattle has hit those numbers in a 4-game span since the 2014 season when Marshawn Lynch helped lead the Seahawks to the Super Bowl. Dan, what's been working for Seattle's offense? Why is it so dangerous?
The under center with the quarterback and equipping Sam Darnold with the ability to change the play, or at least change the direction at the line of scrimmage, and their use of their fullback Oots. Okay, so starting point, they're going to get into really what's a bunch. We're going to start with a tight end there, Cooper Kupp. We're going to pay attention to him a ton, and then there's Oots as the fullback. Now, when he goes in motion, I want everyone to pay attention to Sam Darnold, because as he goes in motion and San Francisco sets their defense, you're going to see Sam kind of stand up and say, hey, opposite, 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 or alert, alert, alert. What he's doing is he's telling everybody on the offense, the defense did what we call weak rotation. The safety came down. When the safety goes down and the linebackers boss over, meaning they go to the strength, they want to run away from that run support safety because of leverage. So Sam's communicating to the offense. Now, a lot of their run game, pay attention, ironically, to the receiver, Cooper Kupp. This is going to be essentially a strong crack toss. Kupp is going to down block on the defensive end, which allows pulls by the offensive lineman, run away from the safety support. Outstanding block by Cooper. You get the offensive lineman and the tight end out in space. This is awesome. Now we have a body there, a body there. The fullback leads the way. Oops. So there's that first starting point of running away from that safety support. A little bit later in that drive, you're going to get into a similar setup. Fullback goes in motion. Pay attention to Sam. Hey, opposite, opposite, opposite. So what are they doing? What did the defense align with? Here's that weak rotation. Safety drop down here. The linebackers are bossed over. They don't want to run to that drop down safety. They want to run front side. Where's Cooper Kupp? That run's going to go more often than not to Cooper Kupp. Now, last time they were in that look with the fullback in the eye, Cooper Kupp did what? Down blocked, and they pulled the offensive tackle. This is going to be called boss, meaning back on support for that front side backer. This time, the tight end out blocks. Cooper Kupp, instead of crushing the end man, he goes and takes the front side backer, and this is an outstanding job. Tight end leads, fullback leads up, and there's help on the run support. And so then can you marry that and then a bootlegger keeper action? Fullback, there he is. Cooper Kupp coming in motion. Every time they're in this, they want to run some type of counter or toss. Here goes this front side guard pulling. They're going to ball fake to Walker, and you get down here and down here. Now, what does the defense do? Flow, 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 because they've seen it so much. Little ball fake, and then all of a sudden, nobody's left for Cooper Kupp. Wide open to the flat, easy throw for Sam Darnold, and easy completion. So I think just their commitment to putting the quarterback under center, allowing him to dictate the direction of the run, depending on how the defense sets their front, and just the ability to play football with a fullback on the field, I think has added a new element to their offense. They did a good job to start this season running the ball out of 12 with the 2 tight ends.
Yep.
But I do think just the occasional wrinkle of running with the fullback or the keeper game with the fullback has just added a new wrinkle to their offense, a more used wrinkle.
That was excellent. Mina.
You know what's crazy, Dan, especially because of the competition? I was watching it and I was thinking, this really reminds me of the Niners from a few years ago, like who this team has become, the Seahawks offense, right? Because and you highlighted this so well, the skill players were just blocking their butts off. The fullback, Oots, Cooper Kupp, of course, still so effective as a blocker. I thought the tight ends in this game, Barner and Saubert, who names never get mentioned, were involved really impressively on some of the runs, including the touchdowns. And that's really important because for the first half of the season, the Seahawks passing game was so explosive because they would put big bodies on the field. Teams would counter that by playing base defense, putting 3 linebackers, and then they would throw on them. Then teams were able to stop the run without putting those linebackers on the field, and it kind of broke down. And I think what you've seen over the last few weeks, and certainly in the postseason, is Seattle being like, okay, we can run out of these heavy looks, whether it's 21 or 12 personnel. And as a result, defenses are now having to respect it again. In fact, going back to the last time they played the Rams in Week 16, the Rams were in their base defense 44% of the time. That's near the most of the entire season. And that really made life easier for Sam Darnold. Throwing on those looks, he was 10 for 15 for 159 yards. There was a screen, you might remember, to Walker that popped off for a massive gain. They were able to attack the backers. So I just think, the Seahawks offense has gone through kind of this journey over the course of the season, and it feels like now it's rounding into shape where they used to put heavy bodies on the field and they weren't able to run the ball. Now that they can run the ball, they'll be able to throw out of those looks as well.
Yeah, and I just think spinning it to this weekend, I would tell you the one offense that has, for years, given this Rams defense fits would be San Francisco's. And I think the point of this offense really starting to look like San Francisco of years old because of the utilization of 21, certainly in the run game.
Miami hiring Jeff Hafley feels like a reset button, not a quick fix. This is about alignment. GM and head coach on the same timeline, same philosophy, that matters more than splash hires. The scary part is the Tua situation. When insiders say the organization values McDaniel more than Tua, that tells you everything. This feels like a rebuild disguised as stability, and the next 2 drafts will define whether Miami climbs back or disappears.
Something to pay attention to for Sunday.
Yeah, no Charbonnet, but Kenneth Walker's been able to handle things so well, it may not affect him as much as you would think it would. All right, back to some more big coaching news as we carry on here. Dolphins hiring Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as their next head coach, and we're now joined by NFL insider Jeff Darlington. Jeff, can't wait to talk to you about this. Not the hire most were expecting maybe, but makes sense with their new GM, John Eric Sullivan, and his Green Bay connection. What more can you tell us about the Dolphins' decision to go with Jeff Hafley?
Well, Laura, certainly something that did catch a lot of people maybe in this market by surprise, but I can tell you that speaking to the people who made the decision, they felt like this was a very rigorous process, despite the fact that it seems like they went with a guy that maybe they would have gone with all along, given his connection to John Eric Sullivan, the new general manager. I can tell you, speaking with the people who made the decision, that they looked at him as he does have some head coaching experience from his time at Boston College. They believe that his ability to work in that kind of capacity will also work in the NFL. They believe he had the type of passion they were looking for, the emotional intelligence, the accountability, and of course the football schematics. I would also tell you that obviously he had that connection with John Eric Sullivan, the new general manager with the Packers, but that was really only for 2 years. So it's not as if they're best friends or anything, but the idea that John Eric was able to see him in that environment, it was essentially a 2-year interview in that capacity as well. So the Dolphins feel like they get stability, structure, and accountability, something they think that will ultimately show itself as this tenure goes on.
Yeah, I mean, whenever he has his introductory press conference, people are going to be impressed. This guy is impressive when you talk to him. Didn't surprise me at all that he got this job. I want to talk to you more about the Tua element of this, Jeff, so hold tight. We're going to continue on that in a moment. But the Dolphins entered the offseason needing to clear $27.5 million to hit the projected cap number. And, of course, Hafley will have a big decision to make about the future of Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, like I was mentioning. The former DB's coach will also have several key free agents from Miami's secondary. The Dolphins will pick 11th in the 2026 draft, so interesting to see if they go draft there. But, Nina, is this the right move for Miami to bring in Hafley as their head coach?
It's always hard to project. Looking at his performance in Green Bay, I thought year 1, the defense took a really big leap. Year 2, you kind of saw without Micah Parsons, things fell apart a bit. Don't know how much to, pin on him. But the body of work, I think, on the whole was good. And I also will say this. I do love the fact that him and the GM are coming in together, even if they're not best friends, as Jeff said, because around the league, I see so many situations where a team held on to a GM and you almost feel like the GM and the head coach might have different timelines and different priorities. I love that Miami got them both not only from the same place at the same time, so they will be working in lockstep. And that's especially important because this is going to be a multi-year process given the quarterback and cap situation. And so they do not want to be putting too much pressure on the roster to win this season. And hopefully the GM and the head coach being on the same timeline will help that.
Yeah, what's the plan for the salary cap and what's the plan for quarterback? Those are the two starting points. I believe that now, to Mina's point, you're coming in with a new head coach, new GM. This feels like a tear it down, complete rebuild, start from, a new beginning at all positions, candidly. And what that means for Tua, if he's going to be there or if they're going to try to move on from him and deal with the salary cap, we'll figure that out, or they'll figure that out. But I do think we can point to how Green Bay has been built. Green Bay has been built with draft picks. Green Bay has been built with defensive line investments. The amount of picks and high first-round picks that have been invested into the Green Bay defensive line, and Hafley's experience not only in Green Bay, but don't forget he was in San Francisco when they had a ton of investments into defensive line. This feels like Miami will immediately start to build from the defensive line perspective and then figure it out from there. But I think we're going to talk coordinators, salary cap. Who manages that salary cap is going to be pivotal to how quickly they can start the rebuild.
It does also make you think, if they were more supported around the quarterback position, maybe things are better for Tua and he could almost get a fresh start in that way. Jeff rejoining us here. What do you know, Jeff, about the future of Tua Tagovailoa?
What I would tell you is that when we look at the fact that they fired Mike McDaniel, some might say, well, maybe that means they want to put somebody else with Tua. That is not the case. Organizationally, I would say that they actually held McDaniel to a higher regard at this point than Tua as their franchise quarterback. Obviously, there are the salary cap implications that could make Hafley take a second look at this, but I do think that organizationally, they are prepared to move on from Tua even as they bring in this new regime. They understand what that comes with. We saw it in Denver. It can work, but it does take lockstep, as you guys said, with the head coach and the general manager. And it also means when it comes to the draft, you cannot miss. That's how Denver has gotten to this point, and that's how the Dolphins are going to do it. And they feel like these are the two guys that can get them there.
Interesting. Yeah, they have the number 11 overall pick. And Jeff, that line from you, they're prepared to move on from Tua with this new regime if that ends up happening. Really interesting. Some I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about thanks to you. It was a tough outing for C.J. Stroud as the Texans fell to the Pats 28-16. Here's D'Amico Ryans on what his message to his quarterback was after the game.
I talked with CJ today, and my message is the same. Right now, it's just about him just flushing this one. Right, it's going to be a lot of negative talk, a lot of attention on him. I just say can't listen to it all. Right, you just got to get back to work in the offseason of going back to the basics, the fundamentals of playing the quarterback position, playing it really well, understanding how we need to play the game to win the game. Right, and he understands that already.
Now, remember, C.J. Stroud missed 3 games in November due to a concussion. The Texans were 3-5 at the time of his injury. He played in Houston's final 8 games, including playoffs. And although the team went 7-1 in those games, his numbers were down from early in the season. That includes throwing 5 picks in his 2 playoff games after throwing 5 in his final 11 regular season games. Mina, we'll start with you here. What went wrong for C.J. Stroud?
The way I would summarize it is he took a situation that was bad and he made it worse. Going back and watching Houston's offense, I think what struck me outside of Stroud's mistakes, which I will get to, which was how many mistakes other people made in this game. The pass protection was disastrous. They could not run the football. A lot of stacked boxes. And the pass catchers had some pretty bad drops as well. And of course, not only he didn't have Nico Collins, you lose Dalton Schultz in that game. But on top of that, C.J. Stroud missed throws, and then, of course, the turnovers happened in some situations where, an example like the pick 6, that's a bad play, it's a busted play. You got to just take the L there and not try to make something happen, which is what also happened in the prior round. And I think moving forward for Houston, that has to be the priority. He's got to learn to let plays die. Because ultimately, I think that was probably the greatest undoing for him in this postseason, not just in this round, but in the wild card round as well.
Yeah, so like the 31 quarterbacks thing, it's probably a little extreme, but we went into the playoffs sitting there saying there was
CJ Stroud's playoff struggles aren't about talent, they're about discipline. Mina nailed it. Bad situation, worse decisions. Elite quarterbacks learn when to let a play die. Stroud didn't do that. What makes this alarming isn't just the picks, it's when they happened. First down, 2-minute situations. Playoff football punishes impatience. And this postseason exposed a lesson Houston must address immediately.
Two quarterbacks that you just couldn't lose the game for your team. Sam Darnold and then CJ. Sam Darnold did very little on Saturday night. His team won by 30-plus points. And when you watch CJ in the game, you're sitting there saying all you have to do is not make mistakes. And the way that your defense is playing, you got a chance to win. This is a touchdown, but the fullback is actually a defensive tackle. He sends the tight end in motion. They score on this play, but it's wiped away.
Yeah.
But you're CJ Stroud. You should own the line of scrimmage and get that executed. This is on first down. This is the first interception. They're taking a double move shot. The safety bites. First down, I'm cool with you taking a shot to the end zone, but on first down, we just float this ball out to the sideline. That takes 3 points off the board. This is the keeper. The defensive end wins the rep. This is once again first down. Just throw the ball into the ground. But that gives New England 7 points. You just can't make that mistake. I'm not going to talk about the dropped interception. This is with 2 minutes to go in the half. You just had the 2-minute warning. It's first down. He's covered. You're too good of a player to try and make that throw, let alone make a bad throw. And I think that's what the puzzling thing was. We've had conversations about it. My opinion, I didn't see this version of CJ this year. Yeah. I don't think CJ was great this year, but CJ was good. And to watch what he was in the playoffs, in Pittsburgh, you're like, okay, one off. And then with New England, in the elements against that offense that is still young with that defense dominating, that's what the puzzling thing was. And I do think that's going to, listen, this is a Super Bowl caliber defense. I do think this is still a Houston window, Mina, where you're like, hey, we got 2 years to win this thing. We have to have, I think they pick his fifth-year option up, yes. Yeah. We have to have a competent plan B.
It was interesting in talking to Texans players even after they had beaten the Steelers to advance. They all said that it was CJ's aggressiveness that they kind of rallied around even when he had made mistakes. And it kind of, to your point here, some of that really bit him. Like it was almost like they were encouraging that a lot. And then it didn't end up working out the way that they wanted it to. We'll keep an eye on what they do going forward. But let's talk about the Bears. They lost a thriller late against the Rams after an interception in overtime by Caleb Williams. He was asked about it yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Small things like that show up in those moments that, you may not have talked about, but being on the same page or talking about it, maybe week 1 or week 6, it shows up in week 18 or whatever week we're in. And so, it's something that to learn from for myself, a learning experience. It's something for us to learn from as an offense and as a team. And we'll go do that at some point.
I mean, he made some incredible throws, but in the same token, even just moments before. Dan, what went wrong, though, ultimately for the Bears?
Short yardage.
Yeah.
They lost the game because of short yardage, situational football. And credit the Rams defense. They made some really impressive plays in those moments, but they were good on early downs. But the reality was this is kind of what this team has been this year. I mean, in the first 3 quarters throughout the season, when it comes to the games, they're minus 4 points. And so they kept giving themselves we can get it done in the fourth quarter. We'll make the miracle plays in the fourth quarter. And obviously, Caleb makes that one miracle play. But it is a reminder of like, hey, a little bit of a too little, too late type of thing. And so I think the aggression on 3rd and 4th down were the right calls out of Ben Johnson to be in that mindset. They just didn't get it done in really any of them to swing the momentum of the football game.
So, look, obviously Caleb had his ups and downs over the course of the game, culminating with a throw that was like an unbelievable up, and that has to be acknowledged. But I think what surprised me the most, not just in this game, but in the previous game, was the Bears' inability to run the ball in the postseason the way they did during the regular season. 2 of their worst games of the year in success rate on running back runs happened in the wild card round and the divisional round. And while I do think the Rams' run defense deserves a ton of credit, I thought the backers were fantastic in this one in particular, as well as the DBs. If you had told me during the regular season, Dan, that the Bears would get to 1st and 5 at the goal line and not punch it in, I would not have believed you, quite frankly. And so, I think just thinking as to why they didn't get to the NFC Championship, that's something that I would point to. This team did not live up to their regular season reputation on the ground in the playoffs when it mattered the most.
Yeah, I think that's why we saw Ben get down there and go run, pass. I know a lot of people were critical of that, but if you're Ben Johnson, why would you not have? I would say this, something to pay attention to, because we were just talking about this with Seattle and Cooper Kupp and his willingness to be on the perimeter and blocking. You've seen it impact JSN and Shaheed. I do think that Chicago is in need of that wide receiver that just is that I'm going to do the dirty work in the run game, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Cooper Kupp.
Did they kind of think Rome Odunze was going to do more of that? Or?
I do, but Rome is a guy that kind of slips off the block on that 3rd and goal and allows Swift to jump and get hit by the defensive back. So I just think for the evolution of this offense, you need that outside perimeter player to be that nasty Jawan Jennings type of blocker, because that takes the run game to the next level all the time.
To what you guys are saying, the 1.5 yards before contact per rush Sunday versus the Rams, their 3rd lowest of the season. Certainly a departure from what we had seen. All right, new on NFL Live, interesting. The Packers have released cornerback Trayvon Diggs, making him a free agent when the new league year begins on March 11th. Of course, free agency will be here before we know it. Diggs played 2 games in Green Bay after being released by the Cowboys in late December. We'll see where he ends up next. Still to come, signed, sealed, and now NFL Live, back to one of our top stories today in New York, where the Giants introduced their new head coach, John Harbaugh, addressing the media for the first time since being hired last week. Our Giants reporter Jordan Renan was in the room today. Jordan, what stood out to you from Harbaugh's introductory press conference?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Look, I've been to a lot of these over the past decade or so. I mean, there's been Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, Brian Daboll. Probably too many that for the Giants to actually like. But this was a little different, bigger in size and anticipation, probably because of the background, the resume that a man like and a coach like John Harbaugh has at this point. There was even a tent back here that was filled. It's right here to my left right now. That was filled with food and drinks for family, sponsors, people in the organization. Everybody from the organization was pretty much out here. There was more than 200 seats for everyone. So a big show. And even when I was speaking to John Harbaugh, he even mentioned that to me. This was something he's never seen before. And trust me, I was actually at his introductory press conference in Baltimore. This, in scale of size, was significantly bigger. And when I talked to John Harbaugh one-on-one, I asked him, what was this about this job that proved that this was the place for him?
The biggest thing was my dad liked the team, and we talked about that in the press conference. He liked what he saw on tape, so that made me feel good because I was like, well, I think my dad sees what I see. These guys have a chance to be good. That was important, and then also the family, the organization, the people here. That's number one critical factor.
How much of that was Jackson Dart? What did you see because you obviously watched tape of him, you did your personal evaluation. What did you see and what did you like?
Well, the quarterback's the biggest piece. I mean, everybody talks about you got to have a quarterback. So the Giants have a quarterback, so that makes you, that kind of opens the door. I think that's what gets started. Then when you meet Jackson, you get to know him, you start talking football with him, see how passionate he is about it. That kind of seals the deal.
Yeah, the quarterback's the biggest piece. That was quite revealing there from John Harbaugh. And I spoke to someone who's close to Jackson Dart, and what they told me was when John Harbaugh came in for his interview, he sat down and talked one-on-one with Jackson Dart for close to 2 hours, and both parties left extremely impressed with each other, and that played a significant role in getting to this point. Now, this is John Harbaugh's second act, right? His mentor, Andy Reid, has had quite a successful second act in Kansas City. John Harbaugh actually said he'd sign right now for the same second act that Andy Reid has, which, by the way, includes 3 Super Bowl wins. And Andy Reid's advice to him was very simple. 4 words. Change can be good.
I like that. Great advice. Also, Jordan, I hope they let you get some snacks out of that snack tent. If they didn't, we need to work on that.
I don't think I need them, Laura. I think we're good here.
Oh my goodness. Appreciate you. Great stuff. Let's read and react to some more coaching news across the league. A lot to get to. Let's start in Atlanta, where the Falcons hired Kevin Stefanski as their new head coach. Stefanski was fired by Cleveland after coaching the Browns for 6 seasons. So, Mina, does Stefanski make sense for Atlanta?
Yeah, I really like this hire. I think back to what Stefanski did with Nick Chubb 2022, really before then as well, in that, outside zone under center run scheme in Cleveland. And I think about how good Bijan Robinson be in the same offense. And people listening to that might say, why would you base your offense around a running back? Well, he's their best player. And it's the offense that's also very favorable to quarterbacks as well. So I think it's a great fit. I think he's proven to be a good leader, and I'd be excited if I'm a Falcons fan.
Yeah, one of the best players in the league, right? To Detroit, where the Lions finalizing a deal to hire former Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as their new OC. Petzing would be replacing John Morton, who was let go after just 1 season in the role. And this might explain why. In 2024, under Ben Johnson, the Lions called runs on offense at the 4th highest rate in the NFL. They also had the 4th best third down conversion percentage in the league. But last year, under OC John Morton, they regressed, dropping to 14th in calling designed run plays and 20th in third down percentage. Next season, Drew Petzing will be the team's OC after spending the last 3 seasons as Cardinals OC. Dan, you like that fit for the Lions?
For the run, for the marrying, and for the sequencing of play calling, I do. I think Petzing's really good in his run game stuff. I think the way he uses his tight ends is very good. The play action pass stuff, I really like. That's going to be the foundation of this offense. Do I think that they need to have someone in the building that really advances the drop back pass game and the pass game concepts? I do, because I don't think that's a strength of his, or certainly wasn't in Arizona. So there's a lot that I think marries up well with who Dan Campbell wants to be, and really who the talent or the players that they have strength-wise are in Detroit, yes. But I do think you want somebody that can get creative in your pass game concepts in the building, because that's not something that shined in Arizona.
It's going to be interesting, too, because remember, Dan Campbell, of course, took over play calling from the previous OC, John Morton, in Week 10 last season. He's always been really involved in the offense, but what's Campbell's role with Petzing and then maybe Happy B-Day? The day before the NFC Championship game in Seattle, Sunday, he became the first head coach in NFL history to reach 10 playoff wins before turning 40 years old. It really is remarkable. In fact, the previous youngest to reach 10 playoff wins was Don Shula, who had just turned 44 when he picked up his 10th win in Super Bowl 8. But after Sunday's overtime win over the Bears, McVay didn't hold back, criticizing his own coaching.
I did not like the feel for the flow of the game that I had outside of the first, series where our guys did a great job. Defensively, it kept us in it in spite of how, poor of a job I did for our group. But like I said, I'm really grateful for this group being able to find a way, stick with it, and be able to overcome some bad coaching by me tonight.
I mean, he could laugh about it because they won. Obviously, he's
mature enough to admit it, too.
Yeah, no, I love that. Honestly, it was a great bite. Mina, what were the biggest challenges for McVay and his offense on Sunday?
Yeah, going back and rewatching, 2 things surprised me. One, that they didn't run the ball more, honestly, given Stafford's shakiness and also some of the lapses in pass protection I saw. And then the fact that it took them so long to find answers against those DB blitzes over the first 3 quarters. Talked about this on Monday, Dan, but they just didn't. Stafford took 3 sacks, no completions until the 4th quarter. And this is actually an issue over the course of the season. So Stafford faces single DB blitzes quite a bit, probably because the Rams play in those condensed formations that are vulnerable to them. And Dan, over the course of the season, 33rd in completion percentage, 33rd in on-target percentage when defenses send the DB. So there are answers to that, and eventually they got to them. But I was surprised looking back that it took them so long, given that this has been an issue over the course of the year as well.
Yeah, good thing. Not something worried about against Seattle. I'm joking. It ends up winning them the game, though, finally, to
we'll
Puka,
hit that on Friday.
having the plan. Right. I agree. I don't think Sean was good. I don't think Matthew saw the field well. I thought he missed throws that you would just never see him miss. But I think the bigger takeaway that has me a lot more concerned was some of just the blown protection issues that they had when they have the proper communication and numbers just blowing it. So they've got 3 people up top. The Rams send 3 offensive linemen that way. They don't block one of them. This is an offensive line that's been one of the best pass protecting units in football. This is at the bottom of the screen. They bring an edge pressure. They have 6. The Rams have 6. Kyren Williams, one of the best pass protecting backs in football, runs completely by Brisker. That's a blown protection situation. Once again, they only have 5 Chicago blitzing. The Rams have 6. They leave one player off the edge completely unblocked. This was a very abnormal thing, and then the right tackle finally steps out even though the back's going that way and just gets beat on an inside stunt. The thing for me, it was the same pressure all the time for Chicago, and so for a team that's been so good at it this year, and for a team that is playing so late into the season with such an experienced offensive line, that would be something that would have my attention way, way, way more if I'm the Rams going.
This entire NFL Live segment tells one clear story. The league belongs to teams that are aligned, disciplined, and adaptable. Coaching hires, quarterback development, run game identity, none of it works in isolation. The teams still standing aren't perfect, but they know who they are. The teams searching or learning the hard way that talent alone isn't enough.